Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater has just come out on PS5, so we've been chatting about remakes, remasters, and remarkable old games we want to see given the Delta treatment, all in today's episode of the PlayStation Access podcast.
Hello, welcome to the PlayStation Access podcast, the official podcast of PlayStation UK. I am your host, Rob Pearson. We are joined today by Rosie Caddick.
Hello, everyone.
And David Jackson.
Hello, wow, that was
The original.
like a fanfare. Yeah. Well, I was taken aback by my own name. Yes.
The original. Authentic people, not remade.
Not remade.
Just
as we
the
were.
original,
We're a single
OGs.
polygon.
With all our, issues and rough edges.
Technical limitations.
Our technical limitations, exactly.
Yes.
But hopefully you love us regardless.
Although, if there was the opportunity, of us to be,
that's a good question.
spruced
Actually,
up.
I might actually go in with that as the first question. Who would we remake
Who would we remake?
What, in the
What do you mean?
team?
on the Access team? Who needs a remake the most?
Who needs a remake?
I do. I remake with hair.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the
You think
change you'd make.
Yeah.
A remake with hair.
Yeah.
What
That'll
hair are
be
you
a
thinking?
remake.
What hair are you thinking?
The hair I used to have at university, sort of like wavy shoulder length.
I think that's too much of a change to the essence of who you are, though. Like, people would
Why
be
didn't you?
like, no, I don't like that.
I wasn't born bald.
No, I
Actually,
know.
I was.
Yeah. But also, if you're talking about Access, you never had loads of hair on Access.
I had some.
Yeah,
It's just a remake.
It's
a remake.
It's a remake. Well, I guess the point is, you've not even introduced what the today's theme is, although hopefully people
It's
are starting to get
remakes.
it. It's
It's a
remakes.
remix already. You're just going straight into, I should remake my hair.
Yeah.
Well, in light of the fact that Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater has recently come out on PS5, I wanted to talk about remakes. Remakes are a thing that increasingly is part of our gaming lives now.
Yeah.
And it's a fairly recent, I would say fairly recent, but it's probably we're 2 or 3 generations into the whole idea of a remake.
What was
now.
the first remake, do you think? It's different. It gets tricky with remakes and remasters as well, and they are two different things. People get annoyed when you consider them the same.
One's
So-
here, a remaster, and one's out there.
Yes,
are remakes.
they're remakes. Very different. So I don't know, but
I
it's an
don't
interesting
know.
thought because it does feel like it's, like you said, it's something that's kind of crept up as being part of
Yes.
the gaming landscape now. Is
Sure.
remakes of older games, whereas obviously 10, 15 years ago, I don't know if there were remakes really.
People were just making new things.
They were. They were just.
I want to dig into this later on because I think it's very interesting, especially how I think video games, far more than any other medium, have this notion of remaking things. I mean, you remake movies, but I want to sort of really dig into why video games, especially, I think, are so ripe for this.
Yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit about Metal Gear Solid Delta first because I really like it.
Yeah, I got that impression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosie, have you been playing it as well?
I have. So I'm still very early on. I've done... Oh, where did I get up to? I had the moment with Ocelot. So I had the... which I was very excited about seeing remade in Delta. So I had that. And I've done
You
the
love
prologue.
that bit, Dave, don't you?
Does it make any more sense in the remake?
It's just cool. It's just cool to
Cool.
his Ocelot unit.
Cool.
It's just amazing how it's just like, oh, we're all very serious, and every now and then it just goes, Row. He only does it like twice in the game, doesn't he? And like that's the first one. And
So
then
the thing is, the Ocelot unit must be there all the time, just like in a bush or like crouched down or
Yeah.
hiding just out of sight.
Yeah.
On the off chance that Ocelot will signal them
Yes.
into battle.
Yeah.
So they must just spend their entire lives just wait for the signal.
Yeah.
Wait for the call. He might not need it. He might need us now.
oh, is he going to do it?
What if there's I assume that is the sound. He's imitating the sound of an ocelot.
Yeah.
What if there's an ocelot around? Do they keep jumping out and helping like
I guess
an
that'd be
animal?
like a little buff.
And they go, oh my god,
That's a buff. If he does the call in an area where there are actual ocelots, he gets added reinforcement.
right. like Indiana
But would
Jones
they-
and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, monkey army. Ocelot gets an actual Ocelot
I
army.
would like that a lot.
But would they be with him or against him though? Like, would they
Great
see?
question.
Because he's
With.
done the call.
But what if it's like a call of "I want to fight with you, Ocelots," and then they all come in
It's
thinking,
probably a mating call, isn't it?
yeah,
Let's be
or
honest.
like or something, dangerous like that.
We're veering off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
Metal
But-
Gear Solid Delta, brilliant, brilliant game. And we will learn, I think, in this podcast that there are many different strands or types or degrees of remaking a thing. And Metal Gear Solid Delta has very faithfully, I think, left a lot of the original Metal Gear Solid 3 untouched. We've got the original voice tracks. The cutscenes are sort of replicated one for one. Visually, it's had a huge upgrade. It looks astonishing. And when you actually play the game and take control of Snake, you will feel the stuff that they have changed and brought up to sort of like modern standards. But I think they've pitched it perfectly in terms of leaving alone what didn't need changing, and just elevating and bringing up to modern standards what potentially did need changing. One obvious example is the changing your camouflage, which in the original game you had to go through a menu every time
You can just
wanted
have a
to do
quick
it.
menu now.
And it would take forever, right? When you're hiding in a patch of low grass and you crawl out into the open and press against a tree, and then you crawl into like a brick area, you're constantly having to break up the gameplay by going menu, change, brick camo, brick face paint. Whereas now you just press up, you hold up on the D-pad, and you can just quick select a camouflage to change into.
What if they had
Great.
updated that further to make it that Snake just automatically did it? Would that take something away from the game?
Absolutely, because
Right.
that is part of the survival element of it.
Is that your choices determine like how camouflaged
Yeah,
he is?
you got to choose. You got to choose how camouflage you want to be. If it was automatic, you might want to not have camouflage. You might want to give yourself an added challenge and do it. I'll do it half naked with.
I was going to say, is
Snake's
there a
bare
naked
chest.
run? Is there a naked run? Has anyone ever done that?
A naked snake.
Yeah, naked
I'm
snake.
sure they have.
Like literally, you never change your camouflage. You've just always got like your top half, no
I'm
top
sure.
on.
I'm sure that will have happened for sure. Of course.
Yeah, definitely.
If not, we should
There's
try
the.
it.
Have you seen the gold paint
Yes.
outfit, which I think must be like a James Bond nod.
Oh, right.
If you've
Yeah.
seen this, it's just he's all covered in golden paint.
Yeah. That would
and
make
not-
you stand out.
And that makes you stand out. You've got all of the other ratings where if, you'll put your woodland camo on, it gives you plus 30. Gold is always like minus 150.
Yeah.
You're just like a shiny gold man running around. So I guess completing the game as a gold Snake is probably the biggest flex you can pull
Yeah.
to really show off your
I'd
Metal
like to see
Gear
those
mastery.
cutscenes. I'd like
Yes.
to see the cutscenes with Gold
Yeah.
Snake.
Because the cutscenes carry on like what you're wearing in Delta as well.
Yeah.
So literally everything just with a gold snake. Everything's just like, oh, you're so beautiful, snake.
I suppose but I'm highlighting the grey area, the difficult grey area of what you can update and what you can't. You know, where the sort of new, where the modern technology, like might, you know, where it's just like, that just makes the gameplay simpler or just stops it from being broken up, and where it actually changes the gameplay. Sometimes that's a grey area, and it's kind of a difficult.
I think that's the
thing
big
to-
challenge faced by people who are remaking
Yeah,
things
exactly.
when they have to make these decisions. Like
Exactly.
the camouflage changing thing. In my opinion, in the original Metal Gear Solid 3, it was unnecessarily breaking up the flow of the gameplay
Yeah.
when you had to constantly go into the menu to change it every time.
Yeah.
And you can still do that in Delta if you want. The
Yeah.
option is still there to go into the menu. If that was a thing you held dear to your heart, having to go into the menu every time to change your camouflage, you can still do that. But it's just a quality of life improvement. And I also really like how things like the codec has been integrated more into the game interface, so you can sort of like dial the number of who you want to call without having to go into like a specific menu to do it.
Yeah.
It just makes everything feel a little bit more alive. And they've redone the control system as well. You can play with the legacy controls if you want. So if you prefer the top-down camera, if you prefer the original controls, you can play Metal Gear Solid Delta like that with the updated graphics and have very much the authentic Metal Gear Solid 3 experience just with PS5 visuals. Or you can play the slightly more modern version, which has like a free camera, and the control scheme is a little bit different as well.
Yeah.
Which took a little bit of getting used to for me because I'm just so used to everything being on the buttons I know for Metal Gear, like choking on square. It's not anymore.
Oh, funny you remember that one.
Yeah, how strange. You find your thumb just accidentally, what is it now, reload or something? You just keep reloading rather than choking.
I did. I have accidentally killed quite a few people.
Oh dear.
By being too overzealous with the interrogating mechanic.
Oh no.
You grab people and you press L3, I think, to make them spill information.
Yeah.
And often it's like, what creatures taste good?
Yeah.
Speak. Crocodiles are delicious. And then whilst trying to like set them down or knock them unconscious, I'll accidentally just press the slit throat button and then
Oh yeah, it must be
They die.
tricky.
Yeah.
Oh, I've done it again.
Snake's just like, oh.
There's a great phone
Now
call
I'm
that
Red
Snake
Snake.
has with Major Zero when he gets to Sokolov. And if you have killed someone by that point, Snake will reference it in the dialogue. And just the way he does it is so perfect for how I was killing people. He just says it in a kind of this sheepish way, like, I had to kill them. There's no other way. There was no other way. There were loads of other ways, Snake.
Yeah.
You just enjoy all the killing. That's what Liquid Snake would say.
I was going to say,
Basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That.
But how about you, Dave? Are you going to play it, do you think, having played the original and obviously been so good and enjoyed the original Metal Gear Solid 3?
I'd love to play it. I mean, I don't want to complain, but I have complained before that although I have played Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 3,
Yeah.
it's, I kept having to pass the pad to Nathan
Yeah.
and hear an angry man shouting at us through a wall quite often. So my recollection of
that's
those
me.
games... That's you, yeah.
Hang on a
They were
minute.
like, oh, that was a weird choice. Why did you play near an angry man? So my recollection of the games is sort of kind of mottled and strange. And I
Yeah.
remember all the stupid moments. Like I can remember not managing to pick up a ration and falling into lava again and again. And I can remember us not killing...
That was in 1.
Yeah, that was in 1, yeah. And I can remember us not killing Big Boss again.
The Boss.
The Boss. I always forget which one. I knew I had a decision to make there. Was it
Big boss, the boss, boss,
The
boss. You're the boss.
I'm the boss.
Who's the real boss?
And I remember like the bits from cutscenes, Ocelot. But so all of this is to say, I would really like to play it and actually play it properly, without anybody shouting at me, without Nathan doing things wrong, which I would have definitely got right. And just enjoy the game. So I really want to play it, very much so. And I'm very up for all the kind of mod cons that you mentioned. The nice, the nice smoothing out of some slightly rougher edges and things like that. Yeah, I'm very excited to give it a go. But and it's just it's just a nice, good story. I mean, it's one of the best games of all time.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to play it. I'm sort of coming around to this idea now as we're talking about it. Why haven't I been playing it?
It's a real treat.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
real treat of a game.
Yeah.
I'm a bit worried at the moment because, so literally, my point of where I last finished it was after the intro cutscene, which was fantastic. And it was like, okay, when I come back into it, like, I'll have a really good place to carry on from. But something else has come up that I have to like play at the moment. So it means I'm not going to be able to play Delta for a bit.
Something else has come up.
And now I'm going to go back into my game when, in a couple of weeks' time maybe, and all my food's going to be rotten.
Oh, yeah.
Because literally I didn't think about it, and then my
yes.
boyfriend said, all that food that you were so excited to pick up. Like as soon as I went in there, I was like, snake for lunch, rat lunchbox. Like I was making sure I had rations, and then he was like,
Meal prepping.
yeah, meal
rations.
prepping, and now it's all just going to be rotten by the time I get there, and it makes me sad.
That's
funny.
a shame.
That's funny.
Apparently though, Alex, he's doing already like the extreme run and stuff like that for
God's
it.
sake.
And he he messaged us saying, like, he said, you know what, I just had a fantastic laugh where he started the fight with the end. And literally at the very beginning, I think one of the trophies is to get all the animals and like eat them. So literally at the very beginning of the end's fight, he literally just took out his parrot and ate it like immediately. And I was like, the end would have watched you literally run into this field and just take his parrot and eat it like right in front of
Wow.
him.
Horrible.
I was like, that's so horrible, Alex. But he was like, yeah, very beginning of the fight, just ate the end's parrot.
The things we do for trophies.
Yeah.
That's particularly cruel.
That
and
is
evil,
cruel.
That.
It was cruel and evil, but I could just imagine Alex going, ha ha ha, like as he did it.
He's like 100 years old. Yeah. His only friend is his parrot.
I guess he's going the same way in a few minutes, so it's not that bad. I love parrots as well. I love birds. That's bad.
Naughty Alex.
Cross with Alex for that. I can't. Did he just go straight in on the hardest difficulty? Is he just like, well, I'm going to go to the platinum, obviously.
I don't know.
I think do it straight away on the hardest difficulty.
I mean, he hasn't said, but I'm guessing he did it on normal difficulty first. Right. Powered through that because he's just able to play games really quickly, and then I'm guessing maybe he went straight onto extreme. I'm not sure in all honesty, but
I'd like to be a fly on the wall in Alex's living room.
And you would see his wife Debbie playing all the games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes, very much so.
Yeah. Well, that's Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater.
Yeah,
which is out now on PS5. I am loving it, and it has prompted thoughts and now a discussion on remakes. We'll start with a very easy one, very simple question. What's your favourite remake? Dave, let's come to you first.
Well, it is a simple question, but I actually don't have a simple answer for this because I realise I've played lots of remakes, but I haven't necessarily played the originals. So I have enjoyed these remakes. Sometimes I'm just enjoying games for the first time and taking the sort of remake parts.
That's perfectly valid.
Oh, it's very valid, but I wanted to say it. And I'm obviously... some of my favourite remakes include Resident Evil 2, or Resident Evil 3, and Resident Evil 4. Some excellent remakes, and Resident Evil, another remake. But I think Rosie might want to talk about those. But they are absolutely fantastic. But another remake that has genuinely blown me away, and I haven't played the original, is Demon Souls on PS5, which it was just like... Just that whole time feels so special to me. Launching PS5 with Demon Souls, getting to play that game for the first time. I have this very vivid memory of just having moved house, and my house was just boxes everywhere, and I just had to be in this living room with boxes, but I couldn't. I should have been unpacking, but instead I was playing Demon Souls. It still looks unbelievable, I think, today. Those opening worlds, the sort of medieval castle-y worlds Rob knows so well, are just epic fantasy, just like straight out of... I mean, just like if you looked up fantasy in the dictionary, they could just use pictures of Demon Souls. And I think it's just testament to the vision of the original game that it can look so good. Like, it's just the same world just brought up to date with the modern day graphics, and it's still like stunning and completely engrossing, and the mystery of the place. I mean, it's also obviously the first game of the Soulsborne genre.
Yes.
And it's really interesting to me, that aspect of it, I suppose, seeing the original take on those mechanics, which are now so familiar to us and have been adopted by so many other kind of games and some other genres as well. It's so great to see, and that is one of the joys of a remake, actually, for me, as someone who hadn't played the original, is getting to kind of see where these things came from. Same with, I'd imagine, with Metal Gear Solid Delta. If you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 3 before, what a game to get to enjoy and see, because that has influenced so many games since. Yeah. And that's one of the big joys of playing Demon Souls for me, is getting to see where those mechanics, those original ideas came from, and how each of those Soulsborne games, I feel like, has itself kind of remade the mechanics, slightly refined them, slightly improved upon them, sometimes just slightly changed them and tweaked them just to change the sort of flavour of each experience. But Demon Souls is just an amazing game. I'm really proud of myself for having actually finished it. I didn't think I would necessarily be able to do that. I only finished it once, and once is enough for me, especially on hard games. But it's just an unbelievable game, I think, and just the perfect example of a remake. It just, exactly what you were saying about Metal Gear Solid Delta, it just brought up to date some things that maybe weren't possible at the time, like improved upon the graphics, made certain kind of aspects of the game, like menu navigation and that kind of thing, maybe slightly simpler. Load times are really fast, but left alone the essence of the game. Which was obviously so strong, and why it warranted a remake. I think
Demon's Souls is an interesting one because it was a niche title for sure when it first arrived, and it
very much
gathered this cult momentum. You just hear people talking about, if you play this game, really, really hard.
Yeah,
oh, so hard, you're not be able to play it. And I think it's fair to say the original Demon's Souls was not pushing the bar in terms of graphical fidelity.
No,
even on the PS3. That wasn't the deal. It
No.
was just this. It was a hardcore dungeon crawling action RPG, and so the remake sort of doesn't just update it visually. It's almost like, okay, here's the essence of that remade with all of the knowledge and the love that we have for the Soulsborne genre. Now we can bring this game into the light.
Yeah.
In a way that we just wasn't possible before, because it just didn't have the attention. It just didn't have that, that cultural following.
Yes.
The Soulsborne genre that it now has.
Yeah.
So it was almost like Demon's Souls being able to get its due.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
A lovely story. For Demon's Souls.
Yeah, it is. It's great, and I want to go back and experience it all again. It was so good. Another one of those games where you've just got to talk to people about it and make mistakes. You can't help but make mistakes or decisions that you regret, but in the best possible way. It's just part of the game. I remember, Rob, distinctly when we first started working together. I think it was Demon's Souls. It might have been Dark Souls that people were playing at that time, which was still new and quite cult, I think, at that time. And I remember there were some guys at work playing it, and they tried to explain it to me, and it just sounded awful. It's just really hard. It's just really hard game. It's really punishing, and this is how it worked. And they explained it to me. And I remember one day the guy who was talking to me, he was like, I finished Demon's Souls last night. And I was like, okay, was it worth it? What happened? He was like, you just get New Game Plus. You get to start again. You get to play it all again. Just like didn't get it at all. I was like, that's just more punishment though. What, you haven't? I was like, was it explained? Did you understand it? Did it all make sense? No, not at all.
It's like get to 5:30 p.m. and your reward is it's 9:30 again.
Yeah, exactly.
In the morning.
Straight back
you
we
get to
go.
work the whole day all over again.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you know what you did yesterday? No.
No, I didn't understand a word of it. Yeah, it was very funny.
Anyway, Rosie, what's your favourite remake?
As I'm sure,
Resi?
there's so many things I could talk about. So many. I play so many remakes and I love them so much. We've just got to mention Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy as well.
Yeah.
Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Even Tomb Raider had Tomb Raider Anniversary on PS2. Like, remakes have been going all the way since back then.
Very good point.
Nitro fueled.
Yep, Nitro Fueled as well.
Remake that.
Yakuza Kiwami and Kiwami 2, they're remakes of the PS2 Yakuza 1 and 2s. Like, there's so many, but you are correct. My favorite is Resident Evil 2 Remake. It is, I just think it's an absolutely phenomenal game. Literally, even thinking about it, I'm like, I love
Why specifically
this game.
2 over 3 or 4?
So, 2, I just think absolutely nails everything that the original had. Like, 3, they cut out some bits from the original, which I would have loved to have seen remade and like the engine and things like that. And 4 is also like absolutely fantastic. But for me, just the remake of 2 is just so delightful. Like what they had with the original on PS1, because that's the thing with 4, it was on PS2, and they have definitely put it in a much more grander upscale with new graphics and just everything in a new lick of paint, and it was all fantastic and wonderful. But the leap from Resi 2 original to Resi 2 remake, I find is a lot bigger than Resident Evil 4 to Resident Evil 4 remake.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, even talking about it, I'm like, I love all of them. But I just think Resi 2, it was, for me, like, it was the first remake that absolutely I was like, oh my God, do I even potentially prefer this more than the original? Like, even thinking about it, I'm always like, I don't know. It's like they're both completely different experiences and I love them both so much. But Resi Remake 2 is just a game that I can play easily over and over and over again. If I see someone else playing it, it brings me joy to watch someone else like experience the game. And I know so many other people play it again and again and again, or they might just come back to it because they're feeling like it. It's condensed. They have taken the original and really just studied it and remembered what made it great, but then also were like, yes, but maybe what if this happened at this point? So it still feels like a whole new experience whilst feeling like you are still playing the original Resident Evil 2. And like, you know, even for something as simple as, like the liquors being in Resident Evil 2, there's in the original iconic moments where you can see one like running across a window or something like that. And in the remake, you might be thinking, oh, is it coming? And then it might not happen exactly how you remember it. So it's still keeping you on your toes. There's the brilliant moment where there's like an interrogation room. And you know, in like police offices, they have the mirror, which is easily like obviously a room on the other side of the mirror. There's a scene with that in the original Resi 2. And I remember going in there, like in the remake thinking, oh God, it's this room. Like, oh no, it's this room. Okay, I've got to get ready for this. But then it like doesn't pan out how you expect it to at all. And then even when you think you get comfortable and you're like, oh, okay, no, they've done something different. Am I safe? I think I'm safe. And then it's like, no, you're not safe. And then it will do like something else immediately. It just feels like you're playing Resident Evil. The excitement you got from Resident Evil 2 back in the day, it feels like you're playing that today, because I appreciate that not everyone would play, for example, the original Resident Evil 2 on PS1, and then you might not find it as spooky. You might be someone who's just like, the zombies are all just moaning and groaning, like, I don't personally find that scary, even though I'm like, I think they're still really good and spooky and terrifying.
Yeah.
But the remake is one that I think everyone who I've known has played it have been like, this is terrifying, but also just grabbed you in the exact same way. Like I remember, I'll never forget, Dave, you playing it in the office, like with the lights on and you were playing Queen, like you were having, I remember it so clearly, but the fact was that you were entranced by it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's we've talked about Resi obviously loads and we'll continue to talk about it loads. It is the epitome of the game a horror game that has more like intrigue than it does. The intrigue is just enough to power me through and keep me going. I think you absolutely nailed it. Like in terms of, it feels like the epitome of a remake, Resident Evil 2, because it does some really new things, some kind of scary things in some ways, like changing the camera from a fixed position camera to like a third person over the shoulder camera. Like that's a huge thing to do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the horror in Resi, the original Resi and Resi 2 games, was the fixed camera position. The fact that you can't control what you can see. You can't see what's around the corner, what's in the next room. Like immediately, as soon as you've changed that, you are changing the game in some way. And to preserve the essence of it, whilst making those quite bold changes is amazing.
Well, it's not just a visual overhaul, it's like structurally altering the game.
Right.
Yeah.
In a way that... And you've got the whole iconic loading screen in the original Resi 2 where you're opening a door.
Yes.
That's just in response to the
a
technical
limitation.
Need, yeah. But there is like there's a building sense of dread every time you see that animation of what the heck is going to be behind this door.
Yeah.
And you don't need that with the remake. Obviously, you just open doors.
Yeah. And like Rosie said, if you're remaking a horror game, for the people who've played it before, you want to preserve the sense of horror, and it's hard for those people who have played them a million times. Like, if you just remake it beat for beat, there won't be any horror at all. It will just be interesting to see those bits you know. So tweaking them to make them similar but slightly different, it's just all so clever and so perfectly pitched. I think that a horror game in particular is very difficult to remake for that reason, and they managed to nail it whilst changing the camera is probably one of the biggest things you can do in a game. You know, like that's a huge decision to make, because it completely changes, as you said, Rob, the structure of the game. It changes the gameplay. It's not just a visual choice, it's like it's something that touches every part of the game. Then you've completely changed it, and it was a brave thing to do, and it was a brilliant thing to do, and it made it more accessible, I think, for modern audiences. It brought you into RCPD like really in there.
Yeah.
And it gave new opportunities for different kinds of horror, which they took, but without changing the essence of the original. I mean, I've only played the first 2 hours, I think, of the original, so I can't speak too much about it, but I was terrified of that when I played it as well, and still am today. I think for it's a brilliantly scary game. But yeah, what a remake.
Yeah, they just keep the atmosphere in both of them. They're both just as scary. They're both just as brilliant. The characters in all of them, in both of them are so lovable. And the remake also adds things that weren't necessarily in the original. Like there's the whole part when you're Sherry in the orphanage, and literally that whole section when you're sneaking around the house and you've got the chief of police following you and stuff like that. That's something that you would not have experienced in the original, but now it's you can see it now from Sherry's perspective. What was Sherry up to in this moment? So it's just fantastic. What a game.
It's pretty cool as well that they've remade obviously 2, 3 and 4 and 1, but brought them all together in a way that feels cohesive. Just structurally, they all feel and look on a level now. Which is nice. And I think it's particularly interesting in the Resi story that you have Resident Evil 4, the original, which pioneered this now ubiquitous behind the shoulder third person action perspective, which has influenced not just Resi games, but you would argue action games throughout the entire medium. And now it's come full circle to the point where the Resi games before 4 are getting that kind of treatment and that kind of style, up to the point where 4 then gets remade as well.
Yes.
It's just, it's a very cool journey, I think, that Resi's been on.
Yeah.
My favourite remake is, of course, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yes.
Which I think to everyone who makes remakes, Final Fantasy VII Remake must be like the curse you, Final Fantasy VII Remake, because it's so ridiculously ambitious. There are remakes and there are remakes, and then there's Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is, in terms of the difference between the original and what the remake looks like, I'd argue this is the biggest chasm. It's completely... It's a reimagining more than anything. And there are arguments and discussions among people who are fans of Final Fantasy about whether it is a true remake or whether it's a sequel. And those are all sort of discussions I don't want to get into here. In essence, it is a remake. It's recreating the iconic scenes and characters and settings from the original Final Fantasy VII and bringing them to life in this incredibly cinematic modern way. That's sort of the key thrill, I guess, for a Final Fantasy fan, to see all of these things that when you play it on PS1, you sort of, well, I did anyway, you'd imagine in your head stuff that wasn't literally represented in the game because they didn't have the technical clout to do it. So when you're playing a turn-based battle, or when you're watching a CG cutscene, and when you're exploring the world map in your mind, you're in a world that is more detailed than the one that is being presented to you. You're filling in the gaps, you're filling in the technical limitations with your imagination. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake comes along and just... It's like it's taken what was in my imagination and just splurged it all over the screen. And it could have backfired massively. They took a massive creative risk by doing what they've done with the story. I'm not going to go into the story for anyone who's not played it and doesn't want spoilers, but it's not exactly how it was originally. There is an element of uncertainty in the plot, which I think is another genius move, because it means people who know the story of Final Fantasy VII, no longer are they just playing a pretty version of a game they love. They're also emotionally invested in the story in a way that I certainly wasn't expecting to be. I was expecting to just, I know what's going to happen, but it's going to look better now. And now I've got the excitement of that, whilst also not being 100% sure that things are going to pan out the way they did before. And the fact that they split it across 3 games, we've just got this... We're in this amazing sort of theory crafting cycle now between games 2 and 3, where we don't even know what the third game is called. We don't know when it's coming. but my excitement for it is already off the scale. When we first hear about it, when it first gets announced or we first get shown anything of it, my world's just going to stop, I think. But it's such a beautiful example of a team who's made it. And the very beautiful and poetic thing is there's a lot of people on that dev team who were fans of the original Final Fantasy VII and they're now working on the remake.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's been made by fans of the original as well. Like, it's been made with a lot of love and a lot of knowledge and expertise as well, guided by a few people who were there for the original Final Fantasy VII. So it's like this. It's almost like the dev team has been remade as well.
Yeah.
So it's a remake in so many different ways. And I think it's one of the most incredible, not just games, but one of the most amazing things that's ever happened. It was a thing that fans wanted for so long and never really thought that we would get it in the way that we have been given it, like this incredible, ambitious, beautiful trilogy, reimagining and remaking, well, my personal favourite game of all time. Feels like I'm just being very, very spoiled by Final Fantasy VII Remake.
I think that's the thing. It does just seem to go above and beyond. Like we're saying, for example, Resident Evil 2, it's like, oh, there are some things you're not expecting, and you mentioned it as well, but like the way that they have redone the story, it's not just a case of, oh, it's not quite what you were expecting, but it's now that players and fans of the Final Fantasy VII, they are coming up with theories about what this could actually mean and what could happen next. It's not just a case of, oh, that didn't pan out how I thought. It's actually like you're questioning now what will actually happen in the story itself, not just a moment like, oh, a jump scare or something. It's like, no, this is the actual written story. These characters have got like in the original, like a set path. We know their stories, this, that, and the other. But now it's like, no, we don't know what their stories are. Who knows what could bloomin' happen? They've just been able to make it work so that they can basically rewrite so many different elements and then still have you questioning what is happening. But it also still makes absolute sense, like in terms of like, yeah, this makes sense that this happens in the game. So yeah, it's just phenomenal for being able to pull off that achievement.
Yeah, big fan. You should play it, Dave. You've got to play it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
now you've played the original.
I really do want to, and it did feel less exciting, I suppose, to me before I'd played the original. Like, it was great. I thought it was cool visually. Obviously, like, as someone who hadn't played the game, the visual changes are just insane. Just from very simple polygon characters and kind of pre-rendered backgrounds to this whole 3D world. Like, the change was clear, and I found that extremely exciting. But now, having played Final Fantasy VII, I'm so excited to play the remake. Genuinely, I just need to find the time for it, and I'm sort of saving it up. And I don't know whether to wait for the trilogy to be available, which is probably foolish because it will probably be too much for me to try and take on. So I should probably just get on with it. I've said probably about 18 times there.
Well, I think part of the fun of it is being in this period of between game releases where you get to discuss and theorize. And I love watching nerdy 4-hour long fan theory videos on what might be happening in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah,
it's just my favorite thing to do.
Yeah,
one of.
I think it was really, just in general, it was really good as well, because I had, like, when you were mentioning that you weren't interested until you played the original, I actually had a friend who was the opposite, and they weren't interested in the original, but the remake, with its, like, new combat style and stuff, they were like, okay, maybe I will check it out, and they loved it. They were like, oh my god, this game is fantastic. So you got to also give credit to a remake that not only keeps the old audience entranced, but then also like a whole new audience that may not have been fussed about the original, and now they're like, no, I love this is amazing.
Very much so. Yeah, and I mean, it is the power of the game. It is the quality, a mark of the quality of the game, that you can have that experience. You can go back to the original and lose all the it's not even just like mod cons. It's like I said, it's a completely different visual experience, and still massively enjoy it. I mean, no voice acting whatsoever. When you were talking about imagining, Rob, I remember you saying having to imagine the voices of the characters. Yeah. And now we're treated to every line of dialogue being, beautifully acted. It's a mark of the quality of Final Fantasy VII that you can go from its very modern, very beautiful, no expense spared remake and go back to a game from almost 30 years ago and go, it's still great. I still want to play it.
I still argue there's a real quality, and I won't argue that one is better than the other, but like the original Final Fantasy VII, where you did have to fill in the blanks with your imagination and imagine what the characters sounded like, and there's like a magic to doing that.
Yeah.
And obviously a modern audience, I don't think you can make like a big AAA ambitious role-playing game now and not have fully voiced characters, and that's just a modern expectation, and I think they've done it amazingly in Remake and Rebirth, and brought those characters to life in a way that does justice to the original characters. But yeah, you can't, I don't think, that's the other good thing about the remake, is it keeps the legacy of the original alive and doesn't sort of diminish it in any way. Quite often things will be remade or revisited, and you'll get fan reaction that's like, my childhood is ruined, etc. Yeah. Whereas I think the spirit of the original Final Fantasy VII is still very much alive, and it's still there, and it's still great, and you can still play it.
Yeah.
I think I was going to ask what makes for a good remake, but I think we've just naturally been talking about that in our discussions anyway.
I think it's a woolly answer.
Yeah.
I think we have been talking about it, and I think it's too difficult to pin down. If there was just a checklist of things,
there are lots of different things, I guess, aren't there? It depends on.
It depends on the specific game.
Yeah,
really, because like you said, sometimes a mod con might be actually detracting. I was thinking about, like, for example, Resi. Resi's save system is very. I imagine is part of the technical limitations of the time, that you needed to go to a certain room and have a certain resource, and it would just it would kind of to a degree, I feel like that is a choice that reflected some of the technical limitations of the time. Nowadays, of course, you could just have autosave happening all the time, but that would completely change the game. And it's that interesting thing where on some games where just like an autosave system might be just a wonderful mod con that means that you can just play the game without having to worry about saving, because that wasn't important in the original. Whereas in Resi, of course, it's like actually the save system is part of the horror in a way, and the safe room is like part of the game. It's a big part of the game. You don't want to touch that. You still want to have this resource that allows you to save in a certain way. So I guess my point is just that how to make a remake, I think, is very much dependent on the source material, and you can't just sort of say, oh well, we'll definitely improve the graphics, or we'll definitely improve load times, or we'll definitely move the camera, or we'll definitely do voice acting now.
Yeah.
It's like any of those decisions could be the wrong decision depending on the source material. So it's very tricky. Like, I think we all agree it's like you've got to bring something new whilst also maintaining the essence. But essence is such a flaky word, is to be able to sort of nail down exactly what that means.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
It is tricky.
I wouldn't want that job. I don't think.
To remake a game?
Remaking a game, especially something I loved. I feel like it must be tough.
The pressure.
It must be hard, because it must be easy to get quite carried away with, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this. And being able to take a step back and going, well, but there was a reason that they didn't do that, or what was the reason they didn't do that? Does that change this? Does that have a knock-on effect? Must be a scary thing. And like, Final Fantasy VII Remake, such a huge change. It is. You said it sort of stands apart. I think it probably does in the enormity of what the changes that it's made, while still somehow maintaining that essence of the game. I'm led to believe, because I haven't played it, but I certainly trust the both of you. That is incredible, and I don't know how you do that. I don't imagine the meeting where they sat down. They were like, okay, let's remake Final Fantasy VII. How do we do that?
Where do we start?
Yeah, where do we start? Any ideas?
Any ideas?
Which bit shall we do?
All of the bits.
Yeah.
All of the bits. I think, for me anyway, I think a remake absolutely smashes it when you can clearly see that, just as much love for the original has gone into the remade project. Like, if you can tell that the developers clearly loved the original and really wanted to show that love in this remake, then I'm just like, I'm immediately invested in this. I had it with Delta, where literally I was playing it and you can tell that the developers have so much love for the original that they've made specific decisions to do things or to not do things. Like even something as simple as when I've been watching the cutscenes, I love how everything's like all, got new graphics and stuff like that, but the body language of the characters, they haven't touched that. Like Ocelot, when he walks around, he still does his like little hand, like just maneuvers and things like that, but it's because they probably love that body language just as much as we do. Again, the same with all the remakes we've mentioned, like every single one we've spoken about, they've all been prime examples of we love the original and this is our homage to like that moment or this scene, or this is we just want to we just love it so much, we want it to do it justice and a good job of it. So
I was thinking about that with Resi 2 remake, about how easy it would be to tweak it a little bit to make it quite a serious, even more scary game in inverted commas, because but they actually maintained that sort of quirky, the characters in the game are a bit strange,
they're
bit
cheesy.
quirky,
They're
cheesy. There's a lot of comedy in that game, and I feel like you could easily have said like, oh, let's change that and make it a bit more dark now. Because that was like a sort of weird
gritty,
quirkiness,
realistic reboot.
Yeah, but it was the love that the developers had for the original, where they were like, no, that's really important. We've got to maintain the cheesiness.
Yeah,
like that's important. That's part of the game. Something that someone else might easily have like stamped out, I guess. And
that's it. Someone who might have not necessarily have loved the original might have said, this is a horror though, it terrified everyone, so we've got to make it just as
let's make it more scary.
That's what people love, this, that and the other. Like, well, no, it's like it's the whole package is what everyone loved with it. So you're absolutely right. That's like a prime example of what they could have changed, but they didn't, because they loved the original so much and wanted to reflect that in the remake.
Exactly. Why do you think we hunger for video game remakes more than film and TV, for example?
Such a good question.
There are so many classic films, right? But you're never going to get the Casablanca remake,
no,
or Citizen Kane,
right?
2025 4K IMAX remake of Citizen Kane. Remake for Citizen Kane.
I'm struggling to think of that many movie and TV remakes, to be honest. Like, I'm sure that I know that they exist.
I think in superhero movies you get reboots quite a lot.
You get a lot of reboots.
Yes, but whether or not that is the same as a remake, sort of on a similar level. But like, you imagine having a game as widely loved and as revered as, I'm trying to think of any kind of classic movies. I don't know.
Star Wars.
Jaws or Star Wars or anything from like, the 70s or the 80s.
Yeah.
And
the Goonies.
I mean, obviously they expand into franchises and they get lots of sequels.
Yeah.
And maybe that's sort of the same kind of thing. But like remakes, just literally, I want the thing remade. Like video games more than any other medium.
Actually, it's funny you say that. Well, didn't they remake The Thing? Am I right in thinking that? Like,
I I think maybe they did.
I'm trying, like, literally, when you just said The Thing, I was like, hang on, wait, no, didn't they remake The Thing? Yeah.
I think they might have. If they did, I don't think it was a huge success.
I thought it was just an example of one that was remade. I was like, oh yeah. I could be completely wrong.
It's a really difficult question. I'm not sure why we particularly hunger for games rather than those other things. Perhaps it's about the immersion and being in the world and the amount of time that you spend with those things. We've all spent hundreds of hours with games from our youth, where you just live in that world and just play it again and again and again. And I mean, I used to rewatch movies a lot more when I was younger, but I don't think it's quite the same. And also when you relive, a movie's a short experience. It might, especially older movies, like maybe 2 hours long, and you getting it word for word. The joy there is that sort of warm comfiness of just rewatching the movie. I was like, that's everything I want from it. I'll just watch it again. I don't really, but whereas a game, I think that there's there's so much more, even your experience of playing a game twice can be quite different depending on the game. Even if it's a very linear game, just, your sort of skill with it can change, and that can change how it plays out and things. So I guess there's that for a start. I think it's the immersion. It's a different kind of, and also because games, we can, or certainly in the past, they were more left behind as hardware moved on. Mm-hmm. It was less likely that I would go and plug in my PS1 to play Resident Evil 2 now, even though that is a thing I could do. I'm a lazy man. But I might still really want to play that game. And obviously things have changed now with other the way that we can play retro games. But I think people want to have that experience again, and it's more difficult with a game unless you are prepared to plug in old hardware. So it's like I want to go back there. I want to go back to that world and that story that I enjoyed. But also there are mod cons again in games that you don't get in movies, apart from visuals where movies can look better.
This has got to be the crux of it for me. Is just the speed at which technology moves in video games is outstrips anything else for me.
Yeah.
Like you say, the visual effects get more sophisticated in movies.
Yeah.
But if you watch a film from the 80s, it looks, the people in it look the same. The graphics aren't better on the people's faces.
Yeah.
Actors look like actors in the 80s, and they look like people now.
Yes.
Films are shot as beautifully back then as they are now.
Yeah.
CG has obviously got better. But I don't think the way in which movies are able to tell stories, there's nothing really, apart from more sophisticated CG, that filmmakers have now that they didn't have back whenever.
Yeah.
Whereas video games, it's so drastically different. Like, we talk a lot. Every time the new generation comes along, you'll get developers saying things like, this is the version of the game I always wanted to make, but I couldn't before because the technology just wasn't there to match my imagination. And now, and it's true that some of the most amazing games of all time are the way they are because of creative solutions to those technical limitations.
Yeah.
You think of like the fog in Silent Hill, for example. It was there because the draw distance wasn't as amazing back on PS1 or whatever it is, but it created this incredible atmosphere of not being able to see far, like the thick oppressive atmosphere of Silent Hill. But now there are so many examples of game devs who realize, okay, the vision I had when I originally made this game can be realized in a way that it just couldn't before. And I think there is just a thrill as well when it comes to for players seeing things that seeing characters and places and settings that they'd only seen previously on PS1 or PS2 and now being brought up to that modern standard. It's like an incredibly exciting thing, I think. Whereas I don't know if it would be as exciting to have like your favourite movie remade with a new cast. Yeah. I don't know if you get that same kind of excitement. Like seeing Cloud and Barrett and Tifa in Final Fantasy VII Remake, for me, was like the most amazing thrill to see them realised in modern graphics.
Yeah. I think it's difficult. You in movies and TV, you might get a younger cast. You might do a prequel, and you might therefore get younger versions of a cast, or you might do a sequel, and you might get older versions of a cast. But a remake with a whole recast is less likely, and I think a bit more problematic. Exactly for that reason, because you attach, you think of those characters as the people who portray them. If they were to remake Star Wars, I'd find it, and like Han Solo, obviously they did it with the Solo movie, but that was okay. He was a younger Han Solo, and I also thought he was excellent. But just remaking Star Wars with a different cast, I don't know, it would fill me with some trepidation.
Yeah.
I think
sure.
it's interesting as well, because I think the thing is with films is that I think there's a lot more of a shift between what people are in the mood for at the time the film comes out than there is with like video games necessarily. Like people are always, there's always like not trends with films or stuff like that, but people want a specific kind of thing. Like, and I'm just thinking back, for example, with The Evil Dead. I love the original Evil Dead trilogy. I think they're fantastic films. I love the practical effects of them and stuff. But then years later, they remade The Evil Dead. And what we were saying before with like Resident Evil 2, like they could have made it more terrifying and gritty. They actually did do that with The Evil Dead. They took it so that there was less of the comedic elements of the original Evil Dead trilogy, and they made it like much more terrifying and gruesome, like, still keeping the gore and the atmosphere and stuff of the original, but they made it a much more like horrific experience.
Yeah.
But like, and I remember watching the remake and I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely terrifying. Like, in the way a horror film is, it makes it good for a horror film. But I remember like at the time, I had friends who were watching the remake because it was more terrifying than I did people who might have like, who didn't watch the original,
Right.
because they were probably like, oh, that's like, just a film I didn't grow up with, or I don't understand it and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's just weird because it's just a really interesting question. I just remember when The Evil Dead came out, that is a remake of a film where everyone was like, oh my God, you have to watch this film. It's like absolutely terrifying and spooky. But also the original is terrifying and spooky as well. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. I just thought it was an interesting point to be like, not all film remakes you'd be like, oh no, I don't want that to be remade. And this also like contradicts what we said about Resident Evil 2, where I just thought it was an interesting thing to point out, but I don't really know what I'm saying with it. Just thought it was interesting.
I think it is interesting. Yeah, I think certainly genres do kind of change over time, and trends change as well, obviously, and maybe that's more pronounced in movies than it is in video games. I'm not sure.
I think I'm more than happy to say as well, like I definitely play a lot more video games than I do with films. So if I probably like watched a lot more films and TV series, I'll probably have a much greater idea. But I think because I'm so invested in video games, that's why I'm more just like, I can see the love here and put into this, that and the other. So again, I think it's also like a very personal preference. There might be people who watch films and they say, why don't they do this with video games rather than films instead? Yeah. It's just like, oh.
I think, I don't know if this is true, but my take is that more people, if a beloved film is remade, it might make people anxious. I think it makes me anxious. If a beloved game is remade, I think it makes people excited yeah. Always, or almost always. I'm struggling to think of a game where people, would be like, oh, I don't know, should we do that? I think people are just like, yes, great, I loved that game and I can't wait to play it again. Like with the, it's something that people just seem to love.
A big part of the enjoyment of video games is how good they look, right? It's the graphics.
Yeah, like
definitely.
It's the yardstick of progress in video games quite a lot.
It's very easy to get excited by that. A better looking thing of the version of the thing you love.
Yeah.
We are running out of time, and I want to do the fun bit at the end.
Okay.
Where we each get to design our dream remake.
Oh God.
So if there is what game
that
hasn't had a remake,
and
that maybe never will, would you remake and why? And how would you approach the remake? What bits would you leave the same? What bits would you look to update?
Oh my goodness.
Well, this has now swapped my answer, because my original answer was going to be, I have always been begging to see the original Resident Evil remade in the new Resident Evil remake style, but Resident Evil has already been remade, and it's actually my favourite horror game of all time. So that's why I'm now
Job done. Isn't that interesting that you that's sort of interesting with the TV and movie thing, that you still like to see it remade again, even though it's already your favourite of all time. It's like, I'm happy with it. It's
interesting as well, because Resident Evil 2 is my favourite remake, but the Resident Evil remake is my favourite horror game of all time.
You're a complicated woman.
I know, Resident Evil. We have a complex relationship. But now I'm going to have to think of another entry, because I was like, Resident Evil 1.
I have a similar thing to Rosie, actually, and is that I was thinking about Abe's Odyssey, which also was remade, but I'd love to see it remade in a Resident Evil 2 style. I'd love to go into Rupture Farms in like a 3D over-the-shoulder way. I think the gameplay would have to change quite a lot, but I love Abe. Love the character of Abe. I love that world.
This is a risky remake here.
It's a risky remake, big time. But that would be good. But if that's off the table, I'd also have to have another thing. But I think that would be good. Like, I am up for. I think that Resident Evil 2 remake is the dream in terms of taking something. Yeah. Kind of 2D in inverted commas, or maybe that's not true for Resident Evil 2. It was very much 3D.
Well, it doesn't have to be off the table. Like it's not a hard rule.
I think this is the risk, is that like this is exactly why I shouldn't remake a game, because I'm someone who is there going, oh, we could do this, and taking a sort of essentially kind of side-scrolling platform game and turning it into a third-person something else game. That's what I'm excited by right now. I think in reality that would be a disaster and I shouldn't be allowed to do it. But that's something that would be very high on my list.
I know, I'm just trying to think of something. Rob, what have you got whilst I'm trying to think of something?
Well, I've got two, but I'm going to talk about them both. The Legend of Dragoon.
I thought you'd say that.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
I would give my left arm.
Oh my God. You wouldn't be able to play it.
No, I'd be all right. And I'd love so much to see that remade with the level of ambition that's been shown to Final Fantasy VII. It's not going to happen. Of course it's not going to happen. Like, it's, but maybe it will. Maybe someone's listening to this podcast like, yes, we will do that.
Hang on a minute. One guy in the UK would really like a remake Legends of Dragoon.
We got him on the recording.
It turns out he's made a video about it previously as well. Yeah. Okay, right. Well, we've definitely got one sale.
I think it's a fantastic cast of characters, an amazing battle system, brilliant world, and to see all of that reimagined in PS5 vision would absolutely blow my mind. But I think the one, if I just had one, it would have to be Vagrant Story, which I think is one of the best video games I've ever played, and not enough people have played this game. It's I think it's like a hardcore, like a Soulsborne mixed with a JRPG type game. Like, it's hard. It's hard as nails. But structurally, it's so unique. Visually, it's so incredibly beautiful. And I wouldn't update the visuals too much. There's something that's what I'd try and keep the same as much as possible. Maybe obviously bring them a little bit more modern. But I really like that sort of strand of, well, it's not remake, but it's like it's an aesthetic, the HD 2D style, where you've got things like Octopath Traveler, which they look modern, they look beautiful, but they're using that retro pixel art style to evoke, I guess, like a feeling of playing those games 20, 30 years ago. But the way in which the sprites move and the backgrounds and the particle effects look as good as anything you'll see in a modern game. I love that sort of collision of the retro with the now. It just creates this incredible effect. And so Vagrant Story has this really beautiful sort of graphic novel style about it, where all of the cutscenes are framed really deliberately and beautifully. I wouldn't voice act the game either. I would have all of the cutscenes performed as they are in the original Vagrant Story, with like speech bubbles, graphic novel style speech bubbles coming out of people's mouths. And I would want to keep that sort of mysterious essence of it there, because so the characters are so enigmatic in that game, and I feel like imbuing them with any kind of like humanness beyond that which is already there sort of like strips something away from them almost. It's such an amazing cast. Like Sydney, the sort of villain in it, he's so charismatic, and I think if he opened his mouth and any kind of voice came out, I think immediately I'd be like, so that's what Sydney sounds like. It's not what I would have expected. And Ashley Riot as well, the protagonist of the game, just a very sort of mysterious, stoic, troubled man. And so I would visually I'd elevate it a little bit, but I want to keep as much of that style as possible. Where I would change it would be in the similar to what Metal Gear Solid what Metal Gear Solid Delta has done. Like every time you want to change a weapon in Vagrant Story, and you have to do this a lot because weapon crafting and weapon management is key to the battle system, and you have to have certain weapons for certain enemies. And every time you want to change a weapon, you have to go through like 4 or 5 layers of menu to de-equip what you've currently got equipped, equip the new weapon, then come out again. And it does break up the gameplay a lot. And so I would just completely modernize all of that and have this slick, modern, almost Soulsborne-esque world. And I'd probably change the structure of the world because it's quite enclosed. Each area is like a small area, and you know exit that area and go through to the next one. So I would look structurally to create almost like a Soulsborne-esque structure for Vagrant Story. It's set in this one city with interlinked like catacombs and upper levels, and it is, I think structurally it is very much like a Soulsborne game. So I'd modernise that, have that all as seamless, one big seamless, beautiful open world, and have it visually as close to the original as possible. That would be one of the best games ever made. And if people at Square Enix are listening, you know, that's what you should
Contact
do.
Robert Pearson.
I'll happily help you make it, work on the game. I don't know how to make games, but I'll be there.
Yeah.
And it would be amazing.
Just cheerleading. You could buy coffees for everyone.
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did think of another game though that I would love to see remade very quick. Dino Crisis.
Nice.
I would love it if they remade dinosaurs. Give me more dinosaurs. Put me, like, you know, just make it very horrible and spooky, like the first Dino Crisis, not the second one when they went more arcadey, which is also great fun, but I would love to see the first Dino Crisis.
First Dino Crisis is amazing.
It's an amazing game, and I think it's one that I think everyone would be like, yes, we want to go back into Dino Crisis, and we want to see these dinosaurs, like, being even more terrifying, and Regina being more of an absolute badass, like, would be very happy with that.
If they approached it in the same way that they have approached the Resident Evil 2, 3 and 4 remakes, that would be one heck of a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, like literally. I mean, I love Dino Crisis 1, but there are moments where, you know, when you get used to the dinosaurs a bit and you're like, oh, there's the dinosaur I left in that room again to preserve my ammo. Oh, I'll just run around you. Like,
used to the dinosaur.
Yeah, like, you get used to the dinosaurs. I'm like...
That's Bob in there. He's the Velociraptor. Bob.
It's like you have to go in that
Not now,
room
Bob.
again. You're like, oh, Bob is in that room. I remember there's one room in Dino Crisis specifically where there's always like a dinosaur just there. And even if you take him out, he'll just come back and you're just like, oh, dinosaur. But like, I love the first Dino Crisis, but I think I would love to see that one remade in the Resident Evil remake style.
Dino Crisis with its fixed camera angle, I think, is a great example of that being used to maximum effect. You go into an area in Dino Crisis and you'd hear a Velociraptor, but you couldn't see it. And you'd sort of like edging around the screen, like, where the heck is it? Not knowing when it was going to jump out at you.
Yep. And then they jump at you from off camera as well. Like literally off camera, then you just hear like a and then they just jump and they're already on top of you. You're like, ugh.
Awful.
Nasty. And that bit where the T-Rex smashes through the window.
Yep.
One of the most terrifying jump scares in video game history.
And imagine that remade.
Yeah. It would be very good. I would love to see it. Any more for any more? Or shall we wrap this episode up?
Oh, just because I thought of it and I'd really like it just for me. Half-Life 2.
Just for me.
It's a much more modern game, I think. But Half-Life 2. I just love those characters. I love that world. I would love to go back and spend more time in it and just see it modernized. I feel like it's another really important game for games.
Yes.
In the way that Demon's Souls was and other games that we've talked about. And that would be fantastic for me. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Dave, and thank you very much, Rosie.
You're welcome.
And thank you very much, Rob,
for this lovely discussion about remakes. I'm going to go home and play more Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater.
Yeah.
Because that's all I do now. Thanks very much for watching and or listening. Let us know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube what your dream remake would be. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time for the next episode of the PlayStation Access podcast. See you then.
PlayStation